Oh, what's the matter, Miguel?
I feel fat, Ed.
I feel the same way too.
Oh, you too, John?
Yeah.
Both you guys need to get in shape. And a way to go about this is by going with JP Total Fitness.
JP Total Fitness? What's that?
Our pal Jonathan Padilla, friend of the show, runs a Brooklyn-based personal training and remote coaching service committed to leading you becoming stronger and faster. Go to jptotalfitness.com.
Say, Ed, when I visited your house the other week, I saw Jen's home office that you've got down in the basement. And there was this beautiful flower centerpiece that was mounted on the wall there. Where'd you get that from?
That was done by Rosie, friend of the show also.
Oh, right.
Rosie, she runs Rolex Creations for personal handmade luxury. Follow Rolex Creation on Facebook and Instagram and place your order today. Well, what are you doing over there?
I'm just looking at our business cards, man. I mean, this is some great work that they did over there at Rolling Press for us.
Rolling Press. That's our pal Eugene Lee runs Rolling Press, and he did beautiful work for us with our cards. Rolling Press, a Brooklyn Park Slope-based eco-friendly printing business, printing books, magazines, zines, and comics for anyone who wants to start their own thing. Rolling Press is a printing company. Go to rollingpress.com.
And now we're going to start the Starman portion of our compare, contrast, review, retrospective, spoiler discussion. Now,
it's a lot of words right there.
Yeah, well, he's a lot of man. He's a Starman.
Friends with words.
Starman was a movie that was also embedded in my childhood.
Oh wow.
Not to be confused, the fact that you held the door for Starman when he.
That's a whole.
I'm just surprised you had a childhood. I thought you were just born this way.
At this point, I was grown from a single hair.
It smells like that.
Yeah, well, it depends on where the hair comes from. You know what I'm saying?
The hair's all over.
They were curlier.
Last I knew, the hair was all over.
The hair was all over. This is a movie that Carpenter puts out in 1984, a 1984 movie. That we actually did talk about a bit in our 1984 retrospective podcast. Matt also participated.
I was there.
Now, and Academy Award nominated. His performance.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. And the only time anything Carpenter touched got an Academy Award.
Which says a lot.
Yes.
Did Bridges, he was nominated for some other stuff, but he never won. He hasn't won like any, big awards, right?
I want to say
Fabulous Baker Boys.
He won?
No, I don't think he won.
I thought he no.
I mean, Crazy Heart, maybe.
Yeah.
Nominated
for Last Picture Show, nominated for Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, Starman nominated Best Actor, The Contender nominated for that.
He's had
Crazy
7.
Heart.
He's had 7 Academy Awards.
7 noms, right?
No, but I don't. No, I do not believe that Jeff has won, and if not.
I mean, not even for the Lebowski Man, which is a very, very sadness.
Right, yes, exactamundo.
Wait, man.
It really brings the room together.
So this is a much lighter film than The Thing. It is Carpenter. I like to always say it is Carpenter showing his Spielberg.
Sure, yeah. It's almost like made to cancel out Spielberg.
I'm going to counter that.
Okay.
It's a straight up love story.
Well, yes, of course it is. Of course it is.
And it's
but that is what it's saying.
An effective love story.
And that is part of being Spielberg. It is showing that, Carpenter saying, I can manipulate more than just the hairs on the back of your head.
Ooh.
On the back of your neck. I can do other things. And he shows how good he is in this film. And to a certain degree, there's also, this is part of the backlash against The Thing. This is him trying to show a studio, you can hand me a big pile of money and I can make you a movie that'll make money.
I think with Spielberg already, being mentioned, I think, The Thing felt a little bit of this too, mostly from a timing aspect and for, the
shadow of
the aliens involved, which every, like 9 out of 10 movies were about aliens at that period of time. But there was, like, E.T. literally had a shadow over, over Carpenter's career, but over movies from this time period in general. Yeah. Everybody was like, either they wanted to be like E.T. or they wanted to, to be the opposite of it, or at least differentiate themselves.
Even Spielberg did to a certain degree, because that's him shadow many people saying that Tobe Hooper
was one
did
of the
not
biggest
pull off the Poltergeist, and that Spielberg comes in there to sort of shadow direct that one. Right. To prove that, no, I can be a scary guy.
I mean, E.T., whether it holds up or not these days, I would probably be on like the not camp, but it literally was the biggest movie of that time period.
I just don't get it. I really don't understand.
That's what I say. I'm not sure that it holds up.
You're not an E.T.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
but even as a moviegoer.
But it's undeniable that was like a giant fucking movie, right? Like at that point.
Everyone and his brother watched it.
Well, is it because it's a children's movie, or was it
primarily
like I just you really don't find that many discussions around.
I find
E.T.
that is true. I don't think people honestly do talk that much these days about E.T. It was gigantic. Mm. It still has a long, legacy. I think it's where we start to coin the term Spielbergian.
Yeah, that's what I think of, at least.
But what are its influences outside of it in itself was basically Boy and His Dog only replaced
its marketing was off the charts, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Turn
sold
on your hot lights.
It sold
Let it shine.
E.T. was selling cereal. E.T. was
listeners.
on lunchboxes,
backpacks.
The merchandising,
video game,
pencil toppers,
one of the worst video games ever to come out.
Right, exactly. And there's no, like you said,
was that a ColecoVision? No.
There's the shadow of that film, and Carpenter, for whatever for obvious reasons, felt he had to produce something.
One of the things I remember Carpenter saying in some of the interviews, again to bring that up, was like he couldn't have done E.T. He would have had to have had E.T. turn into a vampire or something and kill the kids.
E.T. fuck.
And I love that about him. He knows that not only does that, a little dig at E.T., it's like Carpenter saying that he knows himself. He knows his work, and he knows not only what people and fans expect of him, but it just wouldn't work for his style, for like the way he goes about stuff.
And one of the things is this script that is Starman was sort of put on the back burner because of the E.T. success. Right. There was they were competing scripts, and then E.T. gets made first, and then it's like, well, we're not doing this anymore because it's E.T., because E.T. is so big.
Well, not only were there competing scripts, there was the studio, which I think was Columbia for Starman, had the option to either they were going to do either E.T., which at that point was called Night Skies, I think, released in the working title, or Starman, and they went with Starman, and I think history obviously tells you what at least what the box office says about that, but at the same time that's kind of what got us here today, as far as it led to Carpenter being on Starman,
right?
That decision.
A little backing up towards of the thing. Is Richard Masur, of course, was up for a role. I think it might be Masur was up for a role in E.T.
Right.
Turned it down for The Thing.
Yeah, and he was I think he was stalling on it, and then he decided to.
Spielberg himself had said, "I want you."
He's
on
like,
this
"Can
film."
You do this?" He's like, "Well, when do I gotta be there?" He's like, "Well, we gotta do it now." And he's like, "Sorry, I'm gonna do this.
I've got this other thing, the thing." And of course, immediately he had said at the time when he saw it, was like, "Oh, this is the biggest thing I feel. I'm kicking myself in the ass initially." But speaking, contrasting at least E.T. with The Thing, which was its direct, competition at the time in the box office in the theaters. Who talks about E.T.? No one talks about E.T.
Yeah, I think
people talk about The Thing.
In modern, if we're talking about how how both of these movies are perceived in the modern era, I think there's way more fans for The Thing than there are.
There's more passion.
Yeah, more passion.
With The Thing, I think
I don't want to go see E.T. at the midnight movies.
Right, exactly. With The Thing, there's passion and deep analysis. With E.T., I think it is just the attachment of nostalgia. It's just that sort of... And E.T., of course, like I said, its shadow was also on this film, and this is Carpenter going, no, I can give you something like that.
You want that shit? I got that shit.
Yeah.
Well, you want to bring that shit? I'm gonna dunk on you, man.
So he produces with Larry Franco, who's one of his guys. Right?
Again,
And Michael
the same
Douglas.
Norwegian, Michael Douglas, yes.
Yeah, Michael Douglas actually was
Hank
the
Pym
champion
himself.
of this, right?
You know, like he's attached to this.
Executive producer, right?
Executive producer, right? You know,
But he's the one that actually championed this getting made to begin with. I mean, he kind of drug it around to until it finally did get some.
And it is
action.
interesting that
and they're giving a double like twice the amount of money to make this movie. $24 million.
it's surprisingly more expensive than the thing, even though it doesn't have necessarily the same like sort of in-camera effects. But it is a more traditional film, and it has the scope of a big budget Hollywood film, even if it is a small story of two people traveling across country. And the funny thing about it is that there are aspects of the original script that most people would think, oh, that's right up Carpenter's alley.
Yeah,
That's what he's going to be about. And he takes the tack of saying, no.
he actually he cuts out a lot of the not only does he cut out some like technology stuff, but like a lot of the more alien like ideas, like where because I think more than anything he wanted this. Of course, it's a story about an alien who comes to Earth, but he wanted to sort of focus on the not only the love story, but like sort of a stranger in a strange land aspect.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like here's this like blank slate of a life form coming to literally. I mean, they're the whole
to be honest,
to learn about the
it
Earth,
feels
to learn about humans.
I hate saying this. It's a slightly glamorized version of The Man Who Fell to Earth. A man who fell to Earth, starring David Bowie, the also Starman, of a different aspect, right? He had a little bit of that, but here Jeff
I'm new to the culture. I'm new to everything in the world. And like you said, there's this sort of part where, the original script calls for a lot of other different things. And instead he says, no, I need to have the audience buy into this relationship.
Simplify it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about minimalism, that being part of his style. I think this movie, even though there is some weird, it's got there's a sweetness, there's all this stuff that he's not necessarily known for. The interesting thing is you can still see how he's reeled in bits and pieces where, like I said, when we were talking about The Thing, you can see him making the thoughts, like where he's, as a director, he decided to include that, but not to include that, and, how to twist some other things into working better.
Well, look, like the romance, it's expected. Yeah, Karen Allen, by the way,
cutie.
God. Yes.
Oh my
cute.
God.
Yeah.
I've never really was into Karen Allen.
And
then
became
I
a
watched
man
this
again.
movie like
how could you not be?
because
she's
How
because
could you not be? She is
because
everything about
I'm
Karen
not
Allen.
because I
I know
although
her from Scrooged.
Yeah, I know her from.
no, what
I know
Karen
her
Allen,
from Animal House. Anybody?
Karen Allen here in
The
particular,
girlfriend from Animal House.
in this movie, like, but even so, like,
You
it's
can't introduce her
expected-
in her panties, man.
it's
come on.
yeah, I know. It's
She's
expected
like drunk,
that
too,
she's
so
gonna
I thought
fall in
that might be
love
your thing.
Right.
with the alien, right?
Right.
Because they set this up already. Oh, it's her. She's a widow, and her dead husband, and the alien comes and takes the shape and form of Jeff Bridges, and he's gonna act all weird and whatever, and so it's the setup is there.
Right.
And then what goes on in between? It's the road journey, the journey.
Again, to contrast to The Thing is that fact that suddenly here's this film where we have a central female component, where this is not about the relationship of men to men. This is a relationship of a man and a woman, and all the issues that come with that. So it's like, okay, sci-fi story. It's not the same thing as The Thing. It's not hoeing the same, row. It's going into a very different direction. It's about emotions, and it's about, Carpenter said in an interview, it's about hope.
Yeah.
Whereas, like I said, whether you
Optimism. Maybe.
optimism is,
Yeah.
is part of it.
And how the most Hollywood thing about this movie is you got the G-men and SETI and the law. They're on your tail the whole entire time.
They're not. I wouldn't say they're important to the story, especially to the resolution of the story. Notice they don't factor in all that largely. The focus is on Allen and Bridges and their road trip. And it's funny.
In other words, you could tell the
G-Man
story
stuff,
without the whole.
The G-Man stuff.
I need to get to this place
Right.
within two.
Well, not the chase against it.
Yeah.
Really, you could almost cut out the chase stuff.
Yeah, I think the feds just put pressure on the timeline.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They add that sort of extra impetus, and they're the ones. That's the part of the story where the audience gets their exposition. Jeff Bridges doesn't. There isn't a talk about with him and Karen Allen about my people come from the planet Norbulan.
Yeah, well, they're at the end she asked him about
She
that
does ask
stuff,
him,
but he
yeah.
keeps it specifically vague.
Yeah.
Like, it's the obviously we'll get to that part, but there is talk about he does describe how what his people are like, but they've lost something along the way.
Yeah.
Not like and that
He
him
just
saying
says-
that obviously brought me back to Dark City a little bit.
You think maybe what?
Oh man, and go digging in the old stuff, old episodes, see look that episode up, guys. Dark City.
But it's the sort of film where there's, like you said, the vagueness. We don't see Starman's original form. We're not given it.
Which, like you said in the original script, though, it is like specified. Like
what he looks like.
Well,
what
he's got like a coral body with white lips, and he's veiny, and he wears like a mirrored helmet,
Right,
and all this
yeah.
stuff. And like Carpenter again,
makes the choice.
dividing it down to something simpler. We never show that. All we see is like a blue orb of light, and that's until he takes Jeff Bridges' form. That's all we get.
The technology of the thing is opaque.
Yeah.
There's no
blue
sort of-
orbs.
the
Like
blue orbs,
are they
the
are they
ship-
batarangs for this guy? You know, what I mean?
Yeah. We don't. He doesn't get into the biology of it. It's just like, no, that's not important to my story. Which you would think again. Oh, he's the genre guy. Oh, he's going to get into the. He's like, no, I don't need it. This story can still have those elements and not be about that stuff.
Yeah.
He delivers the cast is solid from Bridges, of course, as the quote unquote Starman, and Karen Allen, and Charles Martin.
Karen Allen is Jenny Hayden.
Jenny
In the
Hayden.
What was it?
in the script, like it's actually written as one word. Jenny Hayden, because
That's how the Starman talks.
This is what I said to Miguel after watching this. I said, "My God, Jeff Bridges is indeed one of the greatest actors of our generation."
He's a weird fucking guy, and I say that with all the love in the world for him. And also, there's something about I wanted to do like some sort of Google search because I still don't understand why he looks so fucking different as in the Starman role. I mean, he's got like a lowbrow look and kind of like a dead eye look on his face that somehow he did that. You know what I mean?
Without
like, acting, but
it wasn't special effects.
But you go and look at him in Starman and versus anything, even from that time period. Like, I don't know what he's doing.
Against all odds, right? Yeah.
It's really weird
not just the beard.
whatever the fuck he did.
We bring up Tron, and we're like, "Oh, don't you mean Flynn?"
Yeah. One thing I'd like to note again to compare contrast to the thing is that there's an old saying that if the guts of the movie are good, then it doesn't matter what the head is doing, which is to say that you can have a headliner like a Jeff Bridges and you can have a Kurt Russell, but if the actors underneath it don't deliver as well, they aren't at least solid.
Well, the character actors.
Yeah, if Karen Allen
it's
isn't there
important.
giving the performance she is,
Right.
Like you would never get. Yeah, and Jeff Bridges has said this about this scenario too, like where he if he didn't have her to play off, there's basically if you do take away the Fed scenario, it's basically just like a 2-person movie, and if she's not there giving her all at the same time, like he's just a weird, guy, bird-like weirdo.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look,
Aaron, she was cast before Bridges.
Sure.
Carpenter decided, I need to get this part right. I need to get Jenny Hayden.
Yeah, they we love to do this, but actors that almost were the guy. Kevin Bacon was
Really?
real close. That would have been a really bizarre movie. Wasn't he in Animal House as well?
Yes, he was in Animals. Yes, he was.
They're just
yes.
like bringing that on back. But that would just we can never tell what these movies would be like with other actors. But that's weird.
That's odd that you're bringing up that Karen was cast first, given that now Carpenter was married to Adrienne Barbeau,
yes.
and
she was the voice of the chess.
You're right.
Yeah.
So and then you look at Karen Allen. She's kind of
Barbeau-esque
marginally prettier version of Adrienne Barbeau. Meaning, like, you know,
Totally
she's
different,
kind of
like,
on the
well-
dark. She's a
Well-
darker skin, darker
what
complexion.
I've always
Adrian
said is-
Barbeau was considered more of like a sex pot to use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Without a doubt, Karen Allen has more
A
of the
girl next door,
yeah,
cutie.
which
cutie
is
type.
your thing, Ed. You're always about the girl next door.
He just likes girls. Thankfully.
Whether they live next door or not.
Thankfully not
Well,
for us.
yeah.
All of
He
us.
just likes girls.
He just likes girls. We're good.
Shout out to Ed's wife.
Yeah, I just need to
Honey,
clarify that. You know,
Yeah, honey.
not just girls like 13-year-old girls. No.
No,
I'm
geez.
married. to my
Adult
wife.
women.
okay,
We got it.
into a very weird
You like
area
adults.
here. Back to Karen Allen, who's most definitely an adult.
Pancake Studios does not believe in the opinions
Yeah, we'll
expressed.
insert disclaimer here.
She is a very huge part of the film of making it work as good as Bridges is.
Mhm.
She makes the film work. I think Charles Martin Smith's character makes the film work.
I wanted to bring him up.
Mhm.
All right, you know, he's he
Character actor extraordinary.
character actor. Hey, I just remember him. He's an Untouchable. Okay,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. So
That's the one thing I
Um,
do remember from.
and he brings a certain dimension to the whole G-man. You know, like, you know.
Well, I think I always kind of envision him as a character who was we're gonna remember it's in '84, right? So it's the Reagan era, right? Everyone
Right.
who was counterculture had turned in their counterculture
Reagan,
car.
Reagan. I'm sorry.
Tear down this wall.
Jelly beans, jelly beans, jelly beans.
Just say no. Just say no. Everyone who had counterculture had kind of turned in their card, and it's like, I'm working for the man. I've kind of like, this is where society is. I'm not.
You're
fighting
burning
this
me
anymore.
out, man.
Exactly, right? And I always got a sense of his character as that kind of guy. I mean, you know, the idea of it's like, oh well, I work for SETI. You know, he was the kind of like, you
Yeah.
know. The wild idea of looking for alien life forms when that guy was in his 20s. That was what he was all about.
Right.
His hair was longer and everything else. And then the world changed and he had to get a government job. You know.
Yeah.
Talking
Well,
about paranoia.
Again, in
Right?
the original script, I mentioned to you, though, he's actually described in the original script as
As
a
a-
grizzled 50-year-old divorcee that, and he's also not just, and SETI is not really mentioned at all. He's just another NSA agent, just like
Right.
the,
In the original script, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. And then Carpenter comes around and
Oh,
they
okay.
do the
I mean,
real side.
Charles Martin Smith couldn't be more different from that
Than that
description.
guy. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. He almost feels like the complete opposite of that guy. And he has to be that guy. Because it has to be someone who has a connection to the government in some way in this story.
And someone who's going to present that
But
counter
who's
argument
going
to the top brass.
Well,
He's
no-
gonna
and
let
that's like-
Starman go in the end.
Number one, yeah, his main role is to be empathetic to the Starman.
Right. And so he has to be that, I think, that kind of person. Someone who's like similar to Coyote's character almost in E.T.
Mm.
You know, only again, it's funny. I feel that this film is actually it's less emotionally manipulative than E.T. and it's more realistically emotional.
Mhm.
And deeper, you know, because it's like, the thing, like, again, Peter Coyote's character in E.T. and he goes to LA. Well, I wish if I was your age, I prayed every day that this would happen to me. You know, it's like going like, whereas you got Charles Martin Smith's character in this who's simply like, we invited this
I'm
guy.
excited. Yeah,
We invited
he's
him.
excited that there's life, and the government's just like, let's chop it up. Like,
Right,
it's-
yeah.
But look, the complexities and like you say, like pulling your heartstrings, right? You know, like it's so the complexities of Karen's performance. She tries to leave.
Yeah,
She
Multiple
tries to
times.
leave.
right.
Right,
Realistically
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Realistically so.
Yeah, there's
You
like
know.
You're
that.
taken almost at
Right.
gunpoint by this person who is the zombified corpse of your
Of
dead
your
husband.
dead husband.
Right? Who's just like, who says vaguely, I need to get to Arizona.
Well, like I got to point out too, like, and you talked about there being emotional manipulation, and I think you were talking about as far as like the audience was concerned. But when you really think about the Jenny Hayden character, she is kind of in a PTSD scenario where she's like all stressed out about her dead husband, and here comes Starman. He's like, well, how can I use this? You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
you
then-
think the
there-
Starman was like playing the angles?
A little bit, like I mean, like again, that needs to be like it evolves into a love story. But she's obviously
Starman's a user, man.
She's obviously
He's a user.
She's there drinking, watching old movies of her dead husband. She's obviously in no state to go on a fucking road trip and like get chased by the feds. But she's just like, what am I gonna do? This movie needs to happen. You know what I mean?
The movie gods have determined that the Starman will come into your life.
Plot development. Come on, guys.
Come on, man. Sure. But getting back what I said, so you have her there. You've got Charles Martin Smith. You've got Richard Jekyll, who is another old-time character actor, Dirty Dozen, XYZ. And then a ton of other people who give really good, solid performances almost throughout the rest of the film. The supporting characters, people that they meet, whether they be broadly drawn characters
The
like
cops.
like the cops or the
MC Gainey
rednecks.
from Lost. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Or the roadside diner woman, those sort of things.
I love. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
It's delicious. Yeah. I had a wedge of it myself. But the core of the film is the road trip relationship part between Alan and Bridges, right. And let's concentrate on just Bridges here and what he does with this role.
Sure.
What it is that he did for the for his
there's
preparation?
Like a bunch of stuff. I mean, number one, when Carpenter's like talking about when they first started coming in, he came in with ideas like already, reading the script. He's like, how can I, how do I play this guy? How do I inhabit, this alien? And he really doesn't have anything to compare it to. Obviously, it's an alien, but he started thinking, how, like, what kind of things are like, come to things with like a new view. I mean, and how can I make that apparent? And he started working with. He had a friend named Russell Clark who was a dancer who had like he thought to himself like, who do I know that I could possibly just might just be an alien? I didn't know it. And this guy is like this lanky sort of it's whatever you might think
Twyla Tharp type.
And he basically studied for a while trying to get some body movements down. This is like another weird comment that he made. This goes back to what Ed was saying, like don't fuck with kids. But he had he was taking videos of children and just like how they like kind of interact and like how when
their first experiences, first eating ice cream.
When things are new, how do you react to it? It's not going to be
today. They would never allow Jeff Bridges to do that.
That's why I'm like, let's not talk about that. And then one of the other I think is just like a
what are you doing there, Jeff? It's just a video project, man.
Another thing I think, and this was more of like a kind of a Cliff Notes reminder to himself. He actually had a picture of a bird like on his script.
Oh yes, he had the eagle
to remind himself to like act bird-like. I'm assuming that's
right,
like
that's my character. That's
everybody's
what
like,
Carpenter.
what is whose script is that? That's Jeff's. Don't worry about that. That's kind of
so he had to do his method research.
Yeah, and
he had to do his method research.
He wanted it to. He's a human who's obviously everybody assumed this is an adult male who's Bridges was like 35 at the time, so it's just like this is a 35-year-old man who's been around, but he's also just like a blank slate. Mm-hmm. So and he's impersonating a human. Like
everything up to and including the act of walking is new to this character, and maybe, and this is kind of odd because he's played aliens before and it was a kind of a funny thing, but maybe the only other guy in Hollywood who was off kilter enough to pull this off would have been like Goldblum.
Yeah, right. He actually might be a fucking alien.
He might be an actual alien, but this is too close to home. I don't.
Apartments.com. I don't know why he's saying this. Save the apartments, save the world. I don't know
and without a doubt, he's committed. That's why he gets nominated.
Yeah.
You see this.
Yeah, you can tell he did the work. Yeah.
The work is on, and it's not in a way that's like, oh, he's obviously pulling these affectations. It's no, this is the character.
Well, look, I mean, the character just sort of, there's a downward spiral, to reduce his performance and saying, oh, he's acting silly. No. You go from him being very animated to, I'm about to die.
The
slow,
but also the strange changeover of.
But he gradually becomes more human, or like
the closer he comes to death.
He's like again blank slate, and in 3 days, which is all he has, he's like he basically is having regular conversations
by the end. Yeah,
I mean even with the cook who picks him up for the hitchhiking scenario,
and she goes from,
"You're not from around here, are you?"
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna try to leave this guy, but it's like at the end she's like, "Take me with you."
Yeah,
And
part of that, I mean, again, she looks ahead and she sees her husband,
which is very,
but she knows the husband's dead. But at the same time, she has an attachment to this alien in 3 days' time.
Right? Yeah. Which is partially that movie magic.
PTSD. Yeah.
PTSD. No, I think you have hit something on the head there. Yeah. I mean,
she wants to believe. I mean, she knows it's not, but this is the thing that's right in front of me. How can how can I deny this? It's literally flesh and blood.
And then there's just something about the purity of the character that wins her, despite how crazy the situation is when she decides to. She goes from thinking I'm being kidnapped and this is threatening to,
At gunpoint.
At gunpoint, right?
Yeah. With her own gun, actually.
To I have sympathy for this person, but I'm still not willing to give my all. Oh, okay, he's just lost. All right, here are the directions, but I'm going to take a bus at the next, stop and get out of here.
I mean, what's the worst going to happen? He's dead in 3 days.
Yeah. To know I feel responsible now. Right. That's really what that happens. It goes that, there's a point, where it's like they're at a diner and she's trying to explain, and he knows something's up. He says, "Why are you doing this? Why are you telling me about the maps? Why are you telling me how to use the credit card? Why are you?" And it's her like I'm sympathetic to you now.
Yeah, I gotta skate,
but I gotta get out of this. This is too much for me. And then she makes that final turn over to, no, he's not gonna make this without me.
And you talk about this is like the Bodark's bus station scene.
Yeah, exactly. Like when he brings the deer back to life, and there's this whole, she really sees him for the first time, and understands she gets the gravity of the situation, and that's the real opening of her heart to him.
I take the form of Scott, so I don't scare you. Little bit.
I thought you said you weren't doing the bridges. Or is this you're doing Starman?
I'm Starman.
If Starman is bridges is fine. That's I get it. Okay.
What is kidnapping?
And it, that road trip, you said that 3 days, it's classically in the style of old Hollywood, road trip. And this goes again to Carpenter.
Yeah, I think even Carpenter used like it happened one night.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
A reference to him.
Classic films. He enjoys, the craftsmanship is in that movie. You see it in like you said, in the selection of the shots and how he decides to do things, even small things, like you said, how he builds things. That scene at the bus stop
builds tension, even. Yeah.
There's a hole where they had to go back and reshoot just one moment that he needed to get in there, and that is the waitress at the diner comes and tells Jenny they filmed that on location, right? And in the original cut of it, as it were, she says mostly the same lines, right? And she says, no. She says, do you want me to tell him the whole?
Are you sure, honey? Yeah.
And she's like, no, that's okay. And he says on the commentary, I had to go back. He says, I looked at it and I says, I needed another angle there. I needed another angle that was closer on her to really see. She says, Karen has these eyes. She has this face.
Yeah.
This is, no, I'm committed now. This is, I'm all in on this. I have to get this guy.
Enter the scene where there's a blockade in the road. And she engineers this whole escape plan, where she promises a young kid, I'll give you that hand job if you do this for me.
Is that what you're saying? Oh, Karen, come call in.
That kid seemed pretty hype regardless. He just wanted to take his hot ride up.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's funny because Carpenter talks about in certain more modern interviews, although he'd had an interview at the time where he talked about the tension between his pessimism and his hope, and about how, like he said, I'm a long-term pessimist, but I can be a short-term optimist.
Right.
But there's something about Starman that is kind of, whether you think nowadays that it's a little too naive, that essentially what Starman says at the end, which is he goes, what do you think about humanity? It says, I think you are at your best when things are at their worst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Carpenter's kind of disavowed that as he's gotten older. He says, nah, you know what?
Well, no,
history has kind of showed me when shit goes down, we go down with it. And,
right. Well, I think we all want to feel like that.
Right, yeah.
Because, whenever you see something that hits those, those notes, those heart notes, even, in a movie, you're like, oh, man, I wish that's
real.
the way shit was. The reason why it affects you that much is because, man, I know that ain't real. That's
so much of my experience.
But I think generally humanity wants there to be some sort of optimism, because if there's not, it's just a lot of fucking evil bullshit.
Right.
Well, and figuratively,
and it's in the movie.
It's the kid. Like she ends up having
that she gives him the hope of that next generation. But also, you get this whole of like, okay, well, you've got the government people. You've got certain, and it's funny. A lot of the jerk offs in this are just government, right? The cops, troopers. What have you? The people chasing.
Yeah, we can't do that's another a weirdo scene. I don't necessarily call it a highlight, but it is one of the effects driven scenes where, I mean, they're on the run. Basically, they're trying to get to Winslow, Arizona. Along the way, like, there is that, I think we've gone to the bus stop already. We've had some of these like character building moments, but there's once they leave the hotel, like they basically have to, to get away from the cops. Like I think one of the other guests at the hotel, we don't mean to, tell you anything, but your sweet orange Mustang out in the parking lot is getting like
Chased by the cops, yeah.
And so there's a distraction, and then they escape. The cops start they're just. The weird thing about the cops in that scene is that they really they want to beat the feds to it. Like we want to be in the news.
They pull what was the film you said, Easy Rider? They pull an Easy Rider.
Yeah,
because they pull a shotgun out against them in the Mustang.
They basically hit Jenny in the
side,
back in the back with a shotgun blast through a car.
Right.
And that's actually, I mean, we've seen Starman do weird little stuff like
cut your hair, hippie.
He's like, turn the TV channel with his finger and do some other weird stuff. But this is where we get to see like the first real example of him using his powers or whatever, or
something not just like, oh, I'm contacting my people, or I made a lug wrench melt.
Like he's got,
that line makes me laugh.
He's got these like 7 silver orbs that he takes on the trip with him. And this is the first time. I mean, she's shot. So like now they have to, how does this proceed? They decide to like gun it.
Right. Yeah. Starman decides I'm taking a risk here. I'm going to Hal Needle this shit up.
All right. So not only does he know how to fucking drive already, he's barreling down the highway.
He's fucking Smokey and the Bandit.
Up ahead, they have an overturned oil tanker. That like cops are like, oh, let's get this oil tanker out, and then it's all of a sudden it's like, oh no, here comes an orange Mustang.
Right.
He decides to drive through it. I'm assuming, knowing that it's gonna go sky high, and that's the first time he uses the or. Basically, you see him.
It's the most spectacular example of his alienness.
I mean, basically the thing explodes into a giant fireball, and he walks out.
He walks out in like sort of this glowing force field sort of deal. It sort of harkens back to the stuff that he had cut out from the script, where in the original script there is sort of like...
Well, he can fly in the script.
He can fly, and there's a whole thing...
But if he can fly, why would he need to, drive across country?
Mustang, exactly. Right. So, that's going, again, Carpenter, like you said, seeing what needs to be done, and what's superfluous. And then, of course, we get the whole, he brings her back to life, and, they fall...
Well, yeah, I mean, you were... Before, I diverted there, he, the scene at the bus stop / diner or whatever, where they're eating cherry pie or apple pie, or he's starting with dessert first. I think was it dessert first. But the way that when he resurrects the deer because he doesn't understand why it's dead. So and he can bring it back to life. That's actually the small moment where I don't know. I mean, they don't really show him using. They show him bring it to life, but they don't show him using an orb.
Yeah, it's not like...
so that's no big deal. Yeah. Like bringing a deer back to life. Bringing a woman back to life.
It's not powder, is what you said.
Right. It's not powder.
But that's actually, I mean, to what you were saying.
Once more pedophilia, Ed. Once more.
That's... Anyway. Sorry I brought it up. Kids are great. But
I like girls.
He brings the deer back to life. That's the point that turns her mind towards the fact that this isn't just like, some fucking weirdo that, from space that's trying to kidnap me and kill me. This is a guy that actually needs help. And that's kind of what gets her.
The purity of his soul in that moment, and then realizing the confrontation with the rednecks immediately.
Sure.
That he's going to do something that's going to get himself killed.
She gets her gun out in that point. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom.
It's like he is, he may be wise beyond us.
Well, he's super intelligent, but he's an infant as far as humanity is concerned.
Now, let me ask you, Ed, was there any part of this movie where you weren't into it, you didn't buy it? Because I got a feeling that in our discussions as we talk, you didn't like this as much as you like the thing.
No.
Oh, okay. Oh.
No.
Hands up.
If anything,
take it back.
I like the two movies very differently from each other.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger, DeVito. No. Yeah.
Right.
They're brothers.
Charlie McDennis. Anyway, that's besides the point. You know what I'm talking about because you live in Philly.
Maybe.
No, I like them very, very differently, and I walked away from Starman feeling very edified and very hopeful. It was
And Carpenter did
you
his
know,
job.
like the fact that, because I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for really good love stories.
Yeah.
And you know, not the Ryan O'Neal,
Not Notebook. Not
yeah.
the Notebook.
not which I've never even.
Oh.
It's not.
I don't make it business to watch.
I mean, it's not to say that there isn't manipulation in this story.
Mhm.
There is almost inherently in any story.
No, but it's very sincere. It's very organic.
Mhm.
You know,
You don't feel that it's just about that. Oh well, like some other director it would have been because Jenny Hayden had 38 double D's. It's not about that. You know what I mean? It's not about like.
I think we know what Miguel likes now.
Exactamundo.
we know what Miguel is.
I'm gonna keep my preferences to myself. I'm just a guest, though.
But like, you know, there's a real sincerity to Starman, you know, and I feel like I could watch this movie over and over again. I really do.
I think it does stand up, even though I would put it in the category of films that have kind of, you've said it yourself, no one really talks about this film too much these days.
Yeah, you know, and it's I'm actually quite pissed that they even considered made a spin-off
The spin-off TV show
with Robert
and they talked for years and years about sequels. And
One of the Stranger Things producers, I think, was talking about doing an update for it.
Yeah, not that long, maybe 2014 or something. It wasn't that long ago.
Starman?
Not even that long.
Yeah.
I mean, Stranger Things has only been around since
see,
2006.
that's a mark of something I feel like, you know.
But it would be an
it'd
update with younger actors.
It would
which is
be a
weird.
huge
I think you need
mistake.
to have these actors be in their 30s because it's like that puts some weight behind them, behind the dead husband. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's enough like real time to be alive when you're in 20. I don't know. It's just
I
And
feel
there's that casting too. Karen Allen is a good-looking woman, but there's something about her in this part that feels very lived in.
yeah, but she's not a teenager.
Right, exactly. That's
Right,
what I
right.
mean. It's lived in. There's this sort of like, no, I see some lines on the face.
Yeah, you got to understand why she's, not just
Why a
because
loss
her
would
husband is
affect
dead.
her,
It's
yeah.
just like this means something to her. That it's not just like dead.
Karen
people.
Allen, by the way, she's the poster child for Hollywood. Stopped giving me roles because I was already past my prime. You know, like I was already like in my 30s, and I'm like, what? Even in your 30s, you look nothing like compared
This isn't
to.
actually not to oversell Karen Allen.
Yeah,
She's not Streep. She's not that sort of like, ultra versatile. She's played, in the roles you've seen her, there's a similarity. She has that, I'm not necessarily inhabiting a role, I'm giving you a version of myself kind of actress.
well, we talk about it when we
But-
talk
So, like
about
the
Superman.
the Kevin Costner.
Well, yeah,
we
you know what,
talked about
I
it in her Superman. She was considered for
I
Lois
would have
Lane.
seen, and she would have brought that same sort of
Mhm.
what she did in Indiana Jones or something to that.
Like she would have been
But
fine
she's
if she replaced
incredibly-
Margot Kidder.
She's still a very effective performer.
Mhm.
And it is really a shame that she wasn't apparently given the same
push.
opportunities later on,
Mm-hmm.
kind of because it was like, well, you did like say Animal House, she was in her 20s,
Right.
But we get to Starman, and all right, now she's 30 something.
By the way, you say like it was in the commentary that Carpenter says that there's a look about her eye with her eyes, or
Yes, well, again, that's just her casting is central to this film in general.
Huge eyes, like giant.
Well,
eyes.
To
look,
the
I mean-
point where, one of the interesting things going to the whole idea of him paring it down is we get to that ending, and you
the
could,
light that's being used, like from
we
the,
could talk
from
about the similarities
silhouette.
maybe to like another Spielberg, like a Close Encounters, right?
Mhm.
So okay, yes, we do have the spectacle of the big ship coming, right?
Yeah, the giant mirrored ship.
Yeah. Again, all very vague. What's their technology?
Yeah, right,
I don't
right.
know. And we could have had a shot. Mirrors, yeah. We could have had a shot of them beaming up bridges.
Sure, floating
and
in the sky. Yeah.
That's he doesn't make that choice. His choice is to say the human element of this film was what was important.
Mhm.
And we get this incredible close-up.
Yeah, it's not even like from the point of view of what the Starman might be seeing. It's close up to her with
how she's looking at
the
this.
point of view leaving her face, basically.
Right.
And I think
And
how-
the swelling music and the lighting, and that's the end of your movie. And it is just
I
it hits
think
all the right notes.
I can't think of an example right now, but like I'm sure Hollywood has an example where Starman is, let's say, if you were like an angel or something like that, where
Oh, no, yeah.
rather than an alien, he's he's an offlander, you know, or he's angelic or whatever. But you know,
it hits more towards almost a fantasy.
Well, how much more? I mean, take away like the heat vision and all that fucking shit. Like, how much different is, like, I mean, Starman's basically a Superman to some degree. You know what I mean? He's got an alien comes down and thing. You're like, I don't know anything. I mean, the main difference is that, like, he gets old. He's old in fucking, in 5 minutes compared to, like, giving, Clark Kent, basically a regular human childhood.
I want to say that, Cocoon is probably.
You gotta bring up Wilfred.
No, was that that's unintentional. I'm like,
That's
like,
the oatmeal
but
cooking.
Cocoon.
The
The Cocoon was that a well-received movie? It made it made money,
sequel, brother.
They
got some Academy action on it too.
Because
I think actually it was. I think the two Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy.
Right.
I think they're part of the film.
Right.
Yeah, I actually do. I don't know off the top of my head if they were nominated, but I do know that was one of those like, oh yes, this is a.
We're
film
gonna go
with some
somewhere
depth.
where we never get old. We're never gonna die.
Which very well
send me a postcard.
Which very well could have been the Starman planet.
Well, let me tell you, get
seems
the
to
word
sound
out.
Like the same thing.
You never want to die.
Me and Jeff, we're
Get
gonna go
get
out
some oatmeal
every night. Some carousing.
This is like dueling Brimleys here.
But I think that it's a very human, a very touching film, and Bridges' performance is so good. It is a wonder how it's slipped through the cracks, but then it also isn't a wonder because of Carpenter concentrating on the human element. It isn't the sort of film where you could recommend it to someone, and it's like, well, what are you going to get out of this? Oh, it's a really sweet love story. It's sci-fi.
Does anybody die in it?
Yeah, no, not really. There's no laser guns.
All right, give me another oatmeal.
Is this him in the old folks' home?
It's
any
Wilfred
voice-
asking about Starman. That's
He's looking into it. He wants to see if that's going to be.
Like, well, this is Joanna John's films.
Is it on Netflix? Yeah. All right, cool.
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
I can't have any of that pie because of my diabetes.
Diabetes.
Swinging all the way around.
Yeah. The orbs will cure that. Now,
Yeah.
Matt, you said you've always kind of like appreciated this film mostly because of Bridges and like the performance. In going back seeing it more recently, has it expanded beyond that? Is there more? Do you seeing more of like a?
Well, like,
you're really commenting on like what Carpenter, like how he creates this film.
True. Yeah. I mean, going, much like with The Thing, of course, with seeing it, I think this is another movie that when you watch it, a couple of times or, at least rewatch it, you notice a lot more stuff, a lot of smaller, elements to it. And, things, again, that Carpenter thought through. It's not just like, oh, that was in a script, so I had to do it. You can really tell, I mean, there's some stuff works and some stuff doesn't. Like one thing I don't really understand. I think it's one of those scenario that I know why he did the scene in Vegas. It's to show a little bit more of what Starman can do.
Oh, you have
but
jackpot.
You totally don't need
Right,
that fucking
right.
scene. Like, why do they buy a fucking gold-plated Cadillac? I don't know. They could, man. But it's like, I just want to. I can do this shit. Give me $0.25. He needed a quarter, I guess, to make it look good. I mean, he couldn't have just gone up and tapped and gotten like the 3 cherries. But no, they do that. They buy a fucking car, and they drive the rest of the way. But yeah, it's like the thoughtfulness of it. It's not just like painted on the walls. It's something where you can see why and how Carpenter like went about kind of crafting the overall package to it. And I am a bit of a sucker for a love story. And seeing this when you're a kid and you haven't been through the ringer, as it were. There is like this sort of purity to it that you don't always get, and in like the sci-fi world necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
And especially,
Where it's more about ideas.
when it's very aliens coming to take over,
Right, yeah.
like versions of that stuff.
It'll just be the hero and the love interest.
It's
not
like,
something
oh, humanity gonna get it. You know what I mean? It's like, no.
Is that what you think that? Is that what they said when Starman got back on board the ship?
I think
how'd they treat you?
Yeah, if the cop was played by Roscoe P. Coltrane from the, I think that's how that would be from the Dukes of Hazzard.
No one did it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you go.
Let's go, Flash.
80s references are all over the place.
And Ed, like you said you feel hope and other things. I would agree. I think that is one of the biggest thing. Mostly because Carpenter says it, and I can't disavow the director's intent. Whereas, like I said, I always read about The Thing, and everyone talks about paranoia, and I went to Doom over kind of paranoia. Here, I can't go against what Carpenter says. It's about this character falling in love with Jenny Hayden and giving her hope again, and then the ultimate version of that is the fact that he leaves, but then he leaves her with a child, and there are intimations of that child's importance to the wider world. Like this is almost like a Jesus story, but we're getting the backstory.
Jesus Superman.
Exactly. Well, yeah, absolutely. I always say it.
John Carpenter. Jesus with a Carpenter.
Jesus Carpenter with
JC.
But it is almost could be like, well, here's the backstory that we didn't really, get. And it's the idea. It's like, oh well, she says it's not just that she's lost a love, it's that she doesn't have anything of the husband because she tells him, I can't have a child. I'm just one of these women that, that's just the way it is, and we were never able to conceive. And then he gives her that gift, has given her love, gives her a child, and then tells her, oh, by the way, child's pretty much going to be a messiah.
I gave you a baby tonight. It is a boy baby.
If only.
But he also gives her the choice to get he basically gives her the choice to get rid of it too.
Yeah, Starman's pro-choice.
But that's a very interesting like statement. I think in a very.
It's the alienness of him that is still there. You know what I mean? That he goes. If you do not wish this,
but that's even then that's like a hot button topic. You know what I mean? And it's kind of there, and she's like, no, I want it. Let's just keep going. I kind of that's as a rewatch on that scene. That's a very pocket of time scenario feeling too, where it's like you could see a lot more being made out of that and a lot more controversy.
I'm not sure
if you made that now, that would be a lot more controversial.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm not sure that they would have allowed that to be so casual.
I mean, she of course she says,
and they don't make a big deal of it. You're right. It's there. He makes the suggestion, she says no, and then there's nothing.
Because
more.
when all is said and done, when what happened, after the credits are rolling, and if this was reality.
Unfortunately, yes, there is the
alien. All right, so the alien went back. We didn't catch him if we're the feds, right? But what do we
got left?
9 months. We got an alien in the bun in the oven. You know what I mean?
Two things.
Yeah, they could have at least they could have picked her up and put her someplace else. I mean, Starman wasn't that self-aware. Because he was just like, no, she'll be okay. Don't worry about it. These guys with the helicopters, they'll take care of her.
The dozens of helicopters, too. All the helicopters.
Who had fired missiles
as warning shots.
Yes. You bring up the whole Messiah thing, and I'm like, gosh, I really, if only someone invented time travel, go back and kill the guy who decided to greenlight the TV show with Robert Hayes. I mean, it really pisses me off.
You want to kill Robert Hayes too? Is that what it is?
Well,
now, can you Hitler or Robert Hayes?
Stryker, Yes, exactly. This is Ed. If the aliens ever come to you with that choice, it's going to be you can change humanity's destiny however you wish with time.
I'm going to think small on this one. I'm going to think small. Yeah, we wouldn't get airplane, but
I'm willing to.
Well, he already done by airplane by then, but that's okay.
So it's not going to be like baby Hitler. You would have to kill a full-grown Robert Hayes after he made the mistake.
Well, look, it really diminishes the whole Starman as a property.
But he's not technically he is the Jeff Bridges alien, but he's not the same human.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just saying
no one is Jeff Bridges. That's all I'm saying.
What's more important is that Ed is not going to be allowed to use one of the orbs the way they.
Yeah, no orbs for you, Ed.
He's going to get an orb, but it's going to be like slingshot.
It's going to be a dud.
He's going to have to
it works.
No orbs for you, Ed. The other thing we should I want to get into is music.
This is another film that Carpenter does not do the score for, and it's Jack. I don't know how to pronounce it. It looks like Nietzsche, but it's like Nietzsche or whatever. And it's an interesting. I think he's responsible for two very good musical bits of the 80s. He's responsible for the music here in Starman. And of course, the love theme that ends the film out on is insane, is gorgeous. He's also the same guy that does Last Starfighter
Oh yeah. All right.
with that great sort of pseudo.
Dude, now you think of it, Last Starfighter kind of looks like the aliens, and that kind of look like what they intended,
right.
Like the script intended for Starman.
For Starman, who
Yeah.
knows what's going on there? And yeah, the music in this again it's very eerie.
Eerie synth.
Something I found out by listening to the director's commentary with Carpenter is when he talks about some of the tones and other things, the synth sound are not synth sounds. They are Nietzsche's wife,
Oh wow.
who is a singer. She sings all the tones, and then he put it into like a
You modulate that.
on a
okay.
on a
A
keyboard
sequencer or whatever.
or whatever. And that was 84.
Okay.
God only knows what that would have taken to do.
Bossa Nova. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, John, let's
Get my Casio tone out.
finally
No.
get John involved in the conversation.
Yeah.
To do something like that in 84 as compared to now, like that would be somewhat easy to do, right? If like just do a tone A E and then
Yeah.
like just add a touch of a
Herbie
button.
Hancock was along with Quincy Jones. They were experimenting around that time with that,
That
sort
kind
of
of
stuff.
technology,
I
right? Doing
mean,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
I feel like it was like possible. It was just like anything else. You had it was going to be a huge keyboard versus like a small keyboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
like
a
big
mainframe.
reel-to-reel.
Oh, it was a
computer.
complete big mainframe.
Yeah, we got a
with
mainframe
keyboard
room
attached
right
to
here.
it.
It's like, what can that do? Well, it's
Yeah.
basically a calculator.
Right, exactly.
You know?
And the music does add to the movie. Like you said, it has its strangely haunting. It's strange.
Yeah,
But then
the end theme is killer though.
Yeah.
Like-
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
ooh.
Especially with along with the lights play and married
Well,
with,
you
with the
just
score.
put in the Starman end theme into YouTube, and a bunch of things come up. All these covers,
Sure.
all Philharmonics all over. Or
So does that what all I have to do is dream like that where it's like literally Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen.
Yeah, this is a nice little bit of trivia of the
they were
film.
they were convinced to basically cut an actual music video of that old classic song.
Right, yeah. There's a portion in the film
Dream.
where
The beginning.
yeah,
Because I saw it. That's how I know it's
chiming in with
So
the
we
good
finally
stuff.
got there. We finally got you.
And you can't do that with a lot with the Marvel. Like we talk about this with the Marvel stuff, right? You know, like the way they treat their musical scores. It just
It's
goes by the
pure-
wayside.
yeah,
It's just-
it's almost purely
it's very throwaway.
conveyor
And,
belt.
yeah,
Afterthought kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
almost.
But here it's
Handful, maybe
makes
half.
a huge difference.
Yeah, well, which I think,
And
is
we don't.
also-
It's not even a portion of like a John Williams score.
Yeah, it's not necessarily, or plays the role that a John Williams score. Carpenter talks about. He says, "Well, they Mickey Mouse the score," and he says, John. He says, "Oh, no offense to John Williams." He says, "But that he's the king of that style," which is to say that the music is used to almost put an exclamation
Drive
point
the emotion part
on
of it.
everything. On the one character moves his arm, and there's a musical note that goes with it. Whereas Carpenter obviously is not that type of director. But man, however he's working with these guys who he's working, whether it's Morricone or Nietzsche here, he's getting great work out of them and using them at their to their utmost where they need to be used. I suggest anyone go out and listen to the scores for both films are and again
Yeah, you can track down I think the
full.
I mean both obviously on YouTube and stuff like that, but I mean buy them if you don't steal them.
But yeah, similar to the movies that they're based on, they are diametrically opposite, but they both really work. Closing thoughts on Starman. Ed, would you? My question is a closing thought, similar to what you said. To think, could you make this film today, in this way?
This one I would say yes.
Really?
Yeah, because the love, the romance, the love story aspect of it.
You think it would
I
still
feel,
play?
I feel the audience would receive it better than the way Starman would be received.
The thing.
The thing. So, now wait. Let's. We didn't talk about how it was received in the box office.
Oh, it did solid numbers. It was solid. It wasn't a runaway hit. But it
was up against which movie was it up against? Let me see. Dune. It was up against Dune,
right?
Okay.
which
Dune got shit on too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do?
Like big time.
Yeah. I think it.
and we feel very differently from about
Our
Dune.
friends Siskel and Ebert both shit on Dune. Like,
Well, Ebert gave this positive reviews.
Yeah, and
they,
it got,
Siskel actually really loved it. They both. I just watched that. A cut of that yesterday, like their old review. Like they both were really
I
into
think
it,
that in terms of its box office, I don't think it did spectacular in the film. In
not in the
theaters.
overall.
I think it did. It made a small profit, but I think this was a film again, as we said, video, cable, home video. I'm just gonna say my grandmother needed to own this movie.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Tons of other films she could have owned on home video.
Miguel, go get me that Starman. I think it's a man, Grandma.
It's the Starman.
Well, here's a question: do you think how would it be received in terms of the gender divide? Like, like I feel that women.
Well, here's interesting.
I feel that the women would be
It might
more
be
open to it?
I feel like
Would
it would
be
be
more
bodies. It would be gender swapped. It's in this day and age. You know what I mean? Not unlike they do like
Give her-
with certain characters, but it would be a star woman
Mhm.
that comes down, or like it's just a genderless
Creature?
being that comes down and has a romantic relationship with this like
I think they tried that like
Widow.
with Splash.
I
Oh,
would-
they would
I would-
send a chick with a beep.
yeah. There you go.
I would. Here's I want to see. I want to see a genderless, totally neutral being meet.
A turtle.
I mean, the truth is, we don't know if Starman actually had a gender.
Right,
It's just a
exactly.
thing that inhabits
that
a
happened
body.
to be in this, but I would want to see a neutral, light creature come and meet Wilford. I want to see him eating oatmeal, and it's like, oh, where are you from? Do you think that this film could get made?
It would-
You
I mean, I feel like there's different versions of that idea. If you're just talking about remaking this movie and then updating it, like they would have to change like a ton of like the stuff that makes it kind of like that that pocket in time sweetness to it. I don't think you can have the exact same movie. They're just gonna change it because that's what they have to do when they do remakes. If they go the way where like, I mean, they've talked to Bridges about it and he's I'm into it, man. He's super into it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so is
whenever it comes up,
and
he's
I
all
think
about
to some
Starman.
degree so is Karen Allen. But again, I don't ultimately you don't really need Jeff. Like I don't know how you make it without Jeff Bridges, but you don't need fucking Jeff Bridges. Like that would make no
The
sense.
concept is, yeah.
I mean, the Jeff Bridges clone should be dead at this. As far as the story is concerned, he was there for 3 days, and you can't go back to that. But so yeah,
I don't know. I
I'm
mean-
super conflicted. If you did it, why wouldn't it just come back as like young Jeff Bridges, and then you're back in Tron
I
territory?
think it's also the performance
Flint
really
territory.
says a lot. I mean, he really makes.
It is hard. It is hard
It's
to.
hard.
It's like to find that it would have to be a completely brand new story.
Yeah, there's almost nobody that I can think of that could pull it off, like a modern actor.
Well, let's say this. Let's say, could Kurt have done this? And I say no.
No.
Yeah.
That would have been. It's too different. It would.
They're
it would
very
change the
diametrically
dynamics of
different.
everything so
Like Jeff
much.
Bridges is just so much of a weirdo. No matter how old or young he ever
Right, yeah.
was, he's just the right kind of weirdo for this movie.
Well, I think his acting chops and the acumen are very different. Like Jeff, we've never really seen Jeff has never had that Rambo career. He's never been the big action hero.
Yeah, and you wouldn't buy him. I don't think you would buy Jeff Bridges as the.
What about
hard-
Blown Away? We talked about that. him and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would buy him as the sort of grizzled ex-military guy. It would have to be something, different. I think that's why he kind of works as Obadiah Stane, because you don't like. It's like, no, he's not a grizzled general or whatever.
What was the movie where it was like Ghost Cops that he did with Ryan?
Oh my God!
Yeah,
RIPD.
Yeah.
He'll take anything though. He's still
He's
not
game
as
for
bad as
whatever.
Christopher Walken, but like
He's game. He's game. He's definitely.
But he
game.
usually whatever he's in, he's usually the good thing in it.
Right, yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
it's
Right.
Yeah, and when you put him in something like a Starman, where the script is working, the supporting cast is working, the director knows what he's doing.
right. But in
You get some-
hands of a lesser actor, I don't think Starman would have even worked
Right,
at
yeah.
that point in time.
I was
Which
gonna
goes
say
which I think goes to Carpenter finally.
I was gonna
Because
say
he's the one who
he's-
makes the decision who was going to be this.
Yeah,
part.
to let him do all that fucking weird shit that he did.
I was gonna say that he's a thinking man, Kurt Russell, but it seemed like that wouldn't be fair to who Jeff is, But he's a thinking man's.
He's almost
something, somewhat.
A thinking man's Bo Bridges? No, I'm just kidding.
He's almost yes. There you go. Whoa,
Whoa.
Sorry, Bo. Love you, buddy.
Lloyd always had to make that choice.
Mandelbaum.
I just would like to say that this film.
It picked a hell of a day to quit smoking.
I just want to say final thoughts on this is that this is a movie I think has fallen through the cracks. The Thing is well respected, well regarded, and has tons of influence everywhere. It's probably Carpenter's most popular film. This was a film that got maybe his most critical acclaim at the time. Had a Academy Award nomination.
You mean Starman?
Starman at the time, and has kind of the way I always said about Romance in the Stone, a film with the superstars, huge hit, superstar director. No one talked about it anymore. No one talks about this film. And I think that anyone would be pleasantly pleased with themselves and their choice to do a double feature, to watch
movie starring Michael Douglas,
to watch a Thing, to watch Starman back to back. You may need it. You may need Starman as a palate cleanser after Childs and McCready.
No, it's gonna haunt. It's gonna continue.
in the
It's gonna
frozen
continue
wasteland.
haunting you.
Right. Yeah.
After you watch it, it's gonna haunt you for a while.
For a while,
bit.
yeah. But Starman deserves to have some eyes on it these days, and deserves to be to look back and see, if you like E.T., I think you'll love Starman. I think especially if you saw E.T. as a kid, I can't resonate with you the same way. This will resonate with you as an adult. As Matt said, it's like,
And just a little more to identify with,
Yeah.
not just because of like the the alien being human. There's just a lot more empathy, direct empathy,
Yeah.
and even in the Charles Martin Smith character. Also, I mean, for me, that's another part that sums it up. It's like not just like hope, but the empathy of the characters to this other thing, where it's like the alien comes to us because they wants to learn about us because they've lost something, but we also we're just happy that there's something else out there, and like it's been proven to us, and it's like we don't want it just like
it's Jeff
murdered by the
Bridges.
government.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's something as precious as Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
I really want to thank everyone for taking part in this little retrospective discussion. I thought we covered a lot of great material.
We squeeze all the juice.
We squeezed a
Out of
lot
that
of juice
lime.
out of this to give two films their due. I was happy to introduce some of this the Thing to Ed and Matt. John, I guess will be retroactively thanked.
Thank you.
It'll be in your life.
It'll be in my
your
obituary.
Exactly. There you go. On his tombstone. I finally got to it.
I probably got
Don't
to
come to the funeral. Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Probably will be. Yes, Mr. Velez, Jonathan.
As we fire you into the sun, you're still shaking your fist at me. See, Starman.
Well, we'd have to have the blood test first.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. But I want to thank everyone for taking part. I want to thank John, as always, for providing the wonderful Pancake Studios and his facilities and his incredible sound engineering acumen.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank.
That's me.
El Diablo.
Hail Satan.
Call back.
I think I would love. I'd love to thank. But I'm not going to. I'd love to thank.
I'm used to it.
Edward Ng, who could have vetoed this as a choice at any point. Said, "Nah, we're not going to do this."
If you want to be a dick about it.
Hey, lots more other things to come.
Yeah.
I just want to wish the public out there happy Easter, and Jesus is Starman. I don't know.
I guess.
Jesus is magic. That's what I do.
Jesus is magic.
Jesus is everywhere.
Technicolor Dreamcoat.
A big thank you to Matt Sulcoski for coming down and being part of all this.
Thanks, guys.
We really enjoyed it, even though we had a hell of a time getting here this morning with due to the.
You're almost up there.
Yeah, it was like that was
Jerry
my little
Martin.
road trip. I just wish I had a sweet, orange Mustang to drive through an oil tanker.
No. When you become a 5-timer,
Yeah.
Okay.
What happens then? That's when you put the black lights on.
Well, let's just say that
you'll get the
there's
you
a
get the
section of
5-timer
Pancake
jacket.
that you haven't
The magic
seen
eye
yet.
posters come out.
You haven't seen where the back room is.
Oh right, yeah.
There you go.
That's the deluxe ballroom version.
Miguel, I made you promise me you would never talk about the
that's
back
right.
room.
There's like a gimp mask and like
It's like,
bring out the gimp.
Have you,
would you care for some more d'oeuvres, Mr.
have you seen
Sulcoski?
50 Shades of Grey?
Let's just say.
Let's just
50
say.
Shades of John.
There you go. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for listening, and until next time.
To be
To be continued. I said that like an alien.
To be continued.
To be continued.
Now you gotta say it like Jeff.
To be continued.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Be Continued, a Fanboy Podcast. Our website is www.tobecontinuedafanboypodcast.com. Check us out on iTunes, Google Play, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.